Lovelies, I am the Fragnostic and welcome to tonight's second Retro Rumble, 1988's Haunted Castle. You thought you were getting Dracula's Curse, didn't you? You thought you were getting a good game. In your dreams, lovelies! First we got to get through this fucking train wreck. Haunted Castle, widely considered to be one of the absolute worst Castlevania games ever made, largely due to its ludicrous difficulty, is often referred to as an arcade port of the original NES title, even though it is a vastly different game in terms of mechanics and storyline. Is it really that awful? Sort of, but it has its reasons. Is it really that hard to beat? No. It does have a shit ton of filthy tricks up its cape flap, but as I'm about to show you, it is quite defeatable. Even on this, the ultra-hard, legendarily harsh version M of the game that even the Japanese wanted nothing to do with. I'll tell you something though, it's definitely got the best promotional artwork of any Castlevania game you care to name. Just take a look at this! My god, if anything could scream porn shoot any louder, we'd have Banshee from the X-Men sitting in a cell for public indecency. Oh Dracula, please don't force me to envision the vampire lord I battled from the first classic game looking this way. Like I kicked down the door to a fancy dress party and just started whipping the screeching bejesus out of an office drone from Delaware. Look at his mouth. Oh, what other noise could he be making? Oh, try it with your own mouth. You can produce nothing but that noise. Oh, but enough babble. Haunted Castle sports a refreshing new take on the epic centuries-old war between the vampire-slaughtering Belmont clan and the evil Count Dracula that I simply cannot keep you from a moment longer. It's Simon's wedding day! He's just married his true love Selena, or some girl he knocked up because you can't do that shit in the 1600s and live to tell about it, but uh-oh, here comes Dracula! Vampires stole my wife! Fuck vampires! And a legend is born. And that's it! You done fucked up now, Dracula! Off comes the white tuxedo, straight into my battle gear that doubles as my underwear, and I'll be goddamned if any centuries-old vampire lord is gonna cuckold me after I paid for a wedding and gave my hair the Dame Edna Blue Rinse special. Alright, so, right away, you'll see that there are none of the trademark candlesticks to grab your hearts or sub-weapons from. Instead, you'll be harvesting those from your defeated enemies. There are a certain number of randomized elements in each game, like that zombie-filled gravestone is only there about half the time, and similarly, a lot of enemy placement can be a little wacky and unpredictable. Here's your first and only sub-boss of the game, the amazing self-destructing wall. There's the first dirty trick. Shoots that brick at you just a pixel lower than the one that just came before it and flew over your head, and that alone will knock a big bastard chunk off your health bar. Don't get up straight away when the weather clears up. You've still got plenty of wall left to smash your teeth out with. So, to look at Haunted Castle right off the bat, you might wonder why it has such a god-awful reputation among the Castlevania community. It looks good, nice colourful busy environments, the soundtrack is fantastic, enemy design's pretty sweet, but to understand why it is so hated, you really have to play it for yourself. To say that the combat is unforgiving would be just completely missing the point. Haunted Castle hates you, and any attempt to retaliate against its unholy denizens will be taken as a personal insult that will not soon forget. The controls are like trying to push a truck up a mountain. The hitboxes on most of the enemies are at least 3 times the size of their sprites, and if you die you can only continue 3 times, credits or no credits, then it's back to the start for you, so you gotta look for slim advantages wherever you can find them. And the first is that the same enemies always drop the same items. Like those bombs are always with those skeletons, which will come in dead handy for the first boss in just a moment. Alright, here we are in the Neon Disco Mausoleum. Me and Selena were going to have the reception here. Just sit back in this safe spot on the bones and whip out this minor bat storm. Soon enough, the statue of Medusa you see to the right will come to life and start giving birth to the fastest snakes in the world. Now the snakes come out of her after a slight pause while she's moving, so factor that into your jumping pattern, but otherwise, if you stay this far away from her, don't try and hop around too much, she won't move, and you can bomb her back to ancient Greek hell with the barest of efforts on your part. The bosses in this game continue the Castlevania tradition of being easily murdered with sub-weapons, most of which will serve you pretty well in Haunted Castle. We're off to the woods in stage 2, and you're rudely introduced to a new pain in the arse early on. It's not enough to just kill a skeleton anymore. Now you got to duck from 3 feet away lest you be rugby tackled by the vengeful spirit that lurks within its bones. You get a split second of warning giggle before it comes jumping out at you, so if you don't know which skeletons are which, it's safer from this point on to assume that they're all just walking jack-in-the-boxes. We missed out on the boomerang there, which is no great loss really, but we did pick up the first of our weapon upgrades, the Morning Star. It looks kinda goofy, but we'll only have to suffer with it for this stage before we grab the next one. Be wary of the fish people popping up to say hello, and this fucking boulder with a hitbox the size of a packing crate unless you jump over it at that exact point, exactly there. Anywhere else, doesn't matter if you clear the bloody thing by 3 feet, you will still get hit. Look at him, waddling along. You thought Simon from the NES original walked like he needed to take a crap? That is the disgraced shuffle of a man that has already done the deed all over himself. Damn you, Dracula! First the undercooked hog roast curls my bowel into a needle-filled sack of brown anger on my wedding day. And now this! You shall rue the day you... Oh god, here it comes again. Yeah! Learning to dodge those bats is going to be instrumental in your survival throughout this game because they will... Oh good, here's the bat with my stopwatch. Sometimes he doesn't show up, then you're in trouble. Egad! Surprise bat swarm! Get him out my blue grandma hair! If you remember the stopwatch from the previous Castlevanias, I don't need to tell you how incredibly useful it is in navigating some of the more troublesome enemies and bosses of the series. So we'll be holding on to it for at least another couple of stages, because while it will give us an easier time with the upcoming Bone Dragon King, it will just flat out save us a lot of dicking around in the next level. Watch out for these rock monsters. Smack them once and they'll kind of phase towards you. They're nearly impossible to take out without getting hit if you haven't got the Morning Star upgrade by this point, so don't not have that. Yeah, that was some fine English. I don't know what's going on with the sky here. I think it might be on fire. God damn, we picked a fine day to get married, didn't we, Selena? If Dracula hadn't snatched you up, we'd have been incinerated on the way home anyway. Well, I say Dracula. Nowhere in this game is he ever referred to as Dracula. Not even on the instructional flyer that came with the game. He's just the evil vampire. Then it also refers to Medusa as a mermaid, and the Bone Dragon King is a skeleton-type dragon creature. It's not quite as catchy. That skeleton is the perfect distance to land on if you jumped off screen without seeing it. Get lost. Alright, here he is, good and pissed off. You don't need me to tell you what to do here. Just freeze him in place, slap the calcium out of his damn mouth. If you haven't got the stopwatch, you need to immediately make a beeline for the right side of the screen and get underneath him as he makes his first pass, or he'll trap you in the corner and bounce you to death. But there you go, we've earned our passage into Dracula's castle. Oh, excuse me, the evil vampire's castle. Thank God this timeline began and ended with this game. Take a look at Simon on the map. He's clearly squatting for a shit while clutching a crucifix to ward off poo vampires. Stay back, you fiends! I have an agony of the bowel, and if you have any honour, you will allow me but a moment to void myself. Here we are in the banquet hall, where we're reunited with our old friends, the Hunchbacks. Not quite as pube-rippingly aggravating as they were in the original, but they do come sprinting out the traps at you, take a couple of smacks to put back in their place. As you see there, they exist mainly as a zoning trap if you slow off the mark killing the other monsters. So important to just keep moving in this game. Now this part's pretty awesome. Out of nowhere, you get warped to another fucking dimension, or back in time to ancient Greece, to fight harpies. The audio is spooky as shit here. It's like the ghost of a castrato singer caught on EVP. Well, that's the end of that. Back you go. I'm getting one of those for the house. I'm going straight on eBay after this for interdimensional gateways. Technically there shouldn't be any postage and packaging on that, should there? The crucifix flew out back there, which is an awesome weapon that we will be sure to collect in a couple of stages time, but the stopwatch will serve us far, far better here, especially against the next two bosses. Here comes a crime blood painting. Wah! I'd go and get that looked at if I were you, lovely. Now, normally all the shit on this dining table comes alive when you walk past it, and you have yourself a fucking nightmare trying to swat it all out of the air as it comes after you. But if you activate the stopwatch as it moves on screen, you can cancel it happening altogether. There's multiple instances where you can make Haunted Castle a lot easier by using the stopwatch to do that, as you can switch it on, stroll through an enemy's trigger point, and nothing bad will happen to you when time starts back up again. You'll see a very tricky-dicky example of that in Stage 5 that I pulled from the very depths of despair when I first played this game many years ago, but we're nearly at the end here. The worst is over, and we're about to get our last weapon upgrade, the sword, from this menacing gang of bald midgets. I love their matching Ben Franklin hair and blue Showtime jackets, don't you? Here you go, they all want to give you the sword.
Take mine! No, take mine!
But beware, one of them's a useless fucking boomerang. No thanks. Keep that shite. Alright, boss 3, Stained Glass Knight. Stopwatch abuse will send him down the toilet just as fast as you'd expect. If you're not stopwatching, it's just a case of moving underneath him while he leaps up in the air. On to stage 4, the basement. Now you see the map here has 7 stage markers, and yet you'll only use 6. What the goodness. Here come the mummies and coffins. Christian coffins. What? I like to think the mummies in this stage are refugees from another game, like Tomb Raider or something. They all heard Lara Croft was on her way to the pyramid, and they were like, oh fuck me, she's gonna shoot the piss out of us and take all our treasure. Oh fuck me. Oh, but hang on, Dracula owes us a favour, doesn't he? Pack your shit, lads. The mummies are going to Transylvania. And then there's a big comedy montage of them all faffing about at Cairo airport with the security going, I'm gonna need to look inside those bandages, sir. And Khufu the despoiler goes,
And I was mummified alive with 100 scarab beetles as punishment for defiling the pharaoh's daughter. I hope you're more to colostomy bag.
Then they get to Dracula's castle and he's banging out a sarcophagi, but shit, it's got tons of spare coffins. Yeah, you can sleep in those. Just don't let Ra see you resting under the heathen symbol of Christ. He won't like that. And they're like, yeah, cool, thanks Dracula. We won't be here long, we're just waiting for that backflipping plunder bitch Lara Croft to thieve our ancient heirlooms and execute some crocodiles, and then we're out of your hair. Swearsies. But yeah, trick with the mummies is to wait until they're out of the coffin to swing your sword at them. They got a nasty habit of flinging their bandages at you during your attack cooldown, but you can negate that if you wait until just after they animate. You've got to say, of all the brides that Dracula could have kidnapped, he's shown remarkably poor judgment by taking the one marrying literally the only legendary vampire killer for thousands of miles around. You're just asking to get your castle assaulted there, aren't you? Unless she's a virgin. Vampires like to drop the old virgin blood there, don't they? And Simon Belmont strikes me as the kind of man who likes his sandwiches better if nobody else has had a nibble on the cross first, if you see what I'm saying there. I don't know why, I don't know how, but there's something very Tommy Wiseau about Simon in this game. He doesn't speak a word, but I can just hear him screaming, "You're tearing me apart, Lisa!" to a hunchback that's trying to tear him apart, called Lisa. Or when Dracula runs off with his missus. "This is bullshit, I did not even consummate the marriage with her! It's not a valid marriage! It is not!" Oh, hi Mark. Alright, boss 4, the giant rock monster. Probably the hardest in the game because you can't just run up and start spanking the pebbles out of him. You don't even see him for a few seconds. A cannon load of what looks like weaponized diarrhea comes speeding towards you from off screen and you're like, what in the goddamn? But very slowly he'll edge towards you, and a lot of people think that it's nearly impossible to kill this bastard without taking a good few hits, as he usually moves up and down, firing his rock fists at heights that you can neither duck or jump to avoid. Well, he actually reacts to what you do to an extent, so if you're jumping around all over the damn place trying to smash him with boomerang throws or crucifixes or just swinging your sword at him, then he'll move up and retreat to the top corner of the screen, returning fire at you. But if you stay down here on the ground away from him, moving as little as possible, he'll eventually move to within striking range and you can use the stopwatch to hold him in place while you do your damage. But that's him dealt with, pushing us on to the penultimate stage, the clock tower. It starts with the elevator ride from hell. If you plant yourself on the 5th and 6th blocks in right here, you can avoid half of the crap coming at you. And what we're going to do at the midpoint is cross over quickly to the left, and hit our stopwatch, which won't stop the lift, but it will stop the last damn near impossible to dodge blocks from spawning on screen. There'd normally be a big stone platform smashing your skull into irreparably tiny fragments right after you stop the clock, but once again, we have outsmarted Haunted Castle. So, no doubt, you're watching me play through this and you're thinking to yourself, at the very least, well, this doesn't look terrible. And it's not, it's really not. There are far worse Castlevania games than this. What it is, though, is incredibly off-putting to the first-time player. Like those crows. Now, the damage output of some of these enemies is ludicrous. And not just in terms of what it does to your life bar, more like in relation to what the enemies actually are. Like, if you let one of those little crows hit you, it will be like God himself has punched you in the fucking spleen. You will be clinging to life like you've been involved in a high-speed collision. And as I said earlier, it's not like you die and you can just throw another quarter in and carry on to get a feel for the level before you start to master it. When you die, you die. And you only get to do that 3 times before you dump back at the start. And if you're unlucky enough to have pulled version M on its standard settings, you don't even get your life replenished at the beginning of each stage. Now, there is a trick you can do here, which is to slam a bunch of quarters in and hit start repeatedly at the beginning of the game, which won't give you more lives, but it will extend your health bar to an absolutely ridiculous length, so that you got something like 64 hit points. If you fall down a pit or something, you're still dead outright, and you still lose all your damn money, but it does essentially turn Simon into a walking tank that's better equipped to withstand all the sucker punches that Haunted Castle throws at you. Sorry, that was Frankenstein's monster. He's an absolute disgrace. I didn't feel like his pitiful effort warranted the commentary, frankly. Final stage! Alright, this is another one that everybody thinks is impossible to do without being hit, and I will show you why. So, you're walking across this long-ass bridge that will start collapsing behind you once you kill the first bat. Now, it doesn't look that bad initially, but these bats are forever streaming towards you. The angle they come on screen at means that you can't jump or duck them, so you have to kill them or take a hit. Now the problem with that is that every time you stop to swing your sword at them, just that fraction of a second that it takes, those fractions catch up very quickly with you. And if you stop to kill them all, you're going off the fucking bridge. Always. No question. And this goes on forever. Well, about 1 minute and 40 seconds, but still, a long fucking time. Now you can take the damage and keep moving, but you haven't got the health to take it all, and there's always the risk that the bat will bounce you backwards rather than forwards like you want it to. So, my strategy, as I'm sure you've seen by now, is to use my secondary weapon. You can use the boomerang too, but the crucifix works the best for this, to create a firewall in midair for when the bats appear on screen. Now if I do this in midair, it won't slow me down any, and so the bridge won't get any closer. Now it's not an exact science, but you can get a good feel for when the bats are coming by remembering that the first 2 lots are in waves of 5 with about 9 or 10 hops separating them. Then there's a wave of 6 with just 1 more awkwardly flapping around just before you finish. And as you see here, you don't need to hit every single one with the crucifix. As long as you're killing about a quarter of them using this method, you'll have saved enough time to stop and swing your sword at the rest of them, because surprisingly the window for falling off the bridge is very generous. Here comes Dracula! My god, he's pathetic. Now Dracula looks great, but, well, just watch. Help, help, he set me on fucking fire! With the first form dead. Onto the second form, which is just the most prototype placeholder boss you will ever see. A big grey head, spits 1 bat at you, melts like a fake tit in a microwave. Your spectacular 1-screen ending is Simon and his bride watching Dracula's castle dive into the lake like an attack sub. I'll get you next time, Belmont, and your pretty wife too! And then it's back to the start for another go round if you want to. Which I don't. Haunted Castle, ladies and gentlemen, developed from start to finish in 6 panic-stricken months, in which Konami had to pour countless employees from other projects in to finish it in a completely disorganised mess before it was rushed, barely tested, and riddled with bugs out the fucking door. I thank you. Same time next week, an epic quest across a classic land, some parts famous, some not so much, featuring a haunted mansion, chainsaws, alligator people, aliens, Frankenstein's monster, and much, much more. make your guesses, and I'll see you next Monday here for another Retro Rumble.
Prehistoric bitch, how we do things downtown.